SmokeSumPodcast. It's the visionary mind. I see it, I think it, I make it happen. We're here at the Mothership Sanctuary, one of the premier places in the city of Detroit. I got a very special guest. I'm going to allow you to introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Reverend Heidi Grossman, and I am the founder of Sugarleaf Church, which I founded in 2014.
Okay. So I want to dive into the beginning in your journey. Like, how did you grow up and how did life propel you to do the things that you're doing now?
Defiance. I grew up in Woodland Hills, Calabasas area.
Okay.
Malibu area. So I'm native Californian, and I smoked weed the first time when I was 6. My babysitter, she, I'm like, I begged her. I'm like, please, please, please. And so I blew it out.
Okay.
And it went into the sand. And they were like looking for it for like a half hour, and they never found it. But I was like, what is so important about that?
Right. That makes it harmful, but
Yeah. So that was my first experience. And then my brother and I found my dad's stash.
okay.
And that was a good stash.
Typical kid.
And then when we were 13, we got caught growing. We were up in the Santa Monica Mountains in the canyon, and our neighbors saw us crossing the vineyard with buckets of water. Yeah, so we got caught. And then I got caught in 7th grade for bringing weed on the school bus.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this has always kind of been...
Yeah, they couldn't find it, though.
So what intrigued you to start growing? I mean, is it the area because of California is known as like the hub? And
Well, we passed Proposition 215 in 1996.
okay.
So we had a pretty good head start, and, you know, the blueprint of corruption was created there.
Right.
So, yeah.
So like kind of delve more into that. Like when you say corruption, like what exactly do you mean by corruption?
Corruption, unlawful warrants, judge shopping, raiding over a plant, taking people's children, incarcerating our brothers and sisters, all over a fraud. The biggest fraud in the world was the drug war, because it infected every other country in the world.
Exactly.
And it started here.
Right.
So I've always just felt like, okay, we're going to fix it.
Right.
So
like as you progressed and you got older, like what was it like being from California and being immersed in like weed as well?
in cannabis,
Yep.
well, so if you weren't paying off the right people, you're going to get raided. It's the bottom line. So I started law school in 2007, and then I was trying to be a 420 lawyer.
Okay.
And I got raided. Yeah, but I won that case. They had to give me my permit.
Right.
But that was just for the medical grow, right? We didn't have anywhere near 64 yet. So
Right.
Prop 64 came in 2018 was when it was the first year. So anyway, I spent my tuition on drug rehab because they found a Molly pill, and they charged me with meth. Yeah.
How
So if
does
they charge you for psilocybin too in California, it's a meth charge. Yeah.
So how are the laws different in California versus here?
In Michigan? Well, Michigan didn't become medical, I don't believe, till 2018.
Yep, somewhere in that ballpark.
2018. That was the same year we had our Prop 64. So they basically did the same. They took everybody's rights away, right? All our medical rights. We were operating beautifully with no issues other than being raided, right? Nobody got hurt. Everybody was thriving. The community was thriving. And that just got all ruined.
So like just taking a step back from just something that you just said, like, so do you think that the corruption in California was more of a greed thing, or was it a misconception? Was it still a misconception of weed, or a little bit of both?
Oh, it was a greed thing, 100%. You know, so they took away our medical. They gave you like 5 patients and 1 caregiver, right?
Right.
So that was just ridiculous. And then, so I became a church in 2014.
Okay.
My late husband, Reverend Eddie Lepp, was a big grower in California.
Right.
And he got his first case in it was 1998. The sheriff came in and said, "Not in my town." And so the Eddie beat his state case. And then he grew and he blew up his farm over 30 acres and he put in over 32,000 plants. And then the DEA in 2004 said, "No, you don't." He went to prison in 2007 and did 9.5 years.
Wow.
For a Rastafarian church. Yeah. They didn't want him doing it.
Yeah.
Right? They just, and it wasn't even, they just didn't understand what he was doing.
Right.
First and foremost. So, and then also when Eddie went away, there was no Roarenbacher-Farr Act.
Okay.
That wasn't until 2015. And
Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, so the Roarenbacher-Farr Act is where the federal government cannot spend or use federal funds on state legal cannabis states, right? Or any of the recreational stuff.
Right.
So, and then Lynette Shaw, she was the first female-owned dispensary in California in Marin County.
Okay.
And the feds raided her, and she took them to court, and it took 10 years and $10 million, but she won. So
Wow.
then we had the Breyer ruling. So Lynette she was one of my expert witnesses in my case.
Right.
So,
Being hands-on, like with cannabis and growing and kind of growing up, when you did become more into the law of it, how did your perspective change on seeing it from a different viewpoint?
because I did not understand the system. I've been a paralegal for a long time in the entertainment world.
Okay.
And when I got into cannabis and I started learning about the criminal justice system, like really diving deep into it, it's appalling. It's appalling. I mean, 99% of the people plea out. That's not justice. That's
intimidation.
Well, they'll say, "Oh, so I have a perfect case. My last case was my 29th case, and we had a spiritual center in Las Vegas like this, was up and operating for 2 years, and they raided and arrested him, and it took us 5 years, and we won the case. So we're opening in Vegas again.
Congratulations.
But the unlawful warrants and the things that they're doing to churches right now, even medical patients, they'll come in with a warrant and the judge, I just read a warrant the other day from Michigan, and it was asking for HIPAA records. Well, you're not allowed to do that.
Right.
So when you raid an attorney's office, a doctor's office, or clergy, a church,
Right.
you have to have what's called a special master. It's a federal rule, number 53.
Okay.
And that rule states that the judge has to appoint a third-party attorney, a non-government official.
Right.
We love those NGOs, don't we?
Yeah.
And he is supposed to go in and inspect the records and say this is privileged medical, and he has to put it all in a black bag and take it to the judge, and then the judge can decide what's admissible.
Right.
Or what's protected. So they don't ever do that. No, they don't. Never. So just watching them I've seen so many horror stories here, just the same as California. Like, I went through over 20 raids. Wow. Yeah. I have 6 on me personally, but we had, so I was doing legal work in California, getting everybody's collective set up, right? We had specific law in California, and they asked us to be a nonprofit mutual benefit association. So I set up 365 farms across the state.
Wow.
And 160 churches. When I started, I got raided by a Blackwater military-style operation, privately funded, and we think it's Monsanto. We still don't have all the answers, but they raided our farm after we gave $35,000 to the county. I was the executive director of Yolo County Normal, and then they raided us.
Wow.
Yeah, with some bullshit warrants, and it just... So they didn't touch my plants. One of the landowner there, he was a walnut farmer. He'd never been into cannabis before. And I said, please, whatever you do on this property, you don't understand this business
Right.
at all. Whatever you do, just run it by me.
Yeah.
Right? So I get a phone call one morning, and it's OG Steve Borland.
Okay.
I don't know, the purple
Shout out to
tangy.
him.
Yeah,
Yep.
OG Steve. And we had a $500,000 greenhouse running, and we just cropped out. And we had 300 pounds sitting in there, and I get a call, and it's OG Steve. He says, Heidi, we're getting raided. I go, what? We're getting, what? No.
Ridiculous.
And he goes, yeah, I'm going to go put my pants on. And I'm like, okay, because the first thing in the morning is when they do it.
Right.
And so anyway, I get there, and I'm filming them, and I'm like, who? They had no, like, sheriff, no police. It was, like, all tactical gear.
Did they even have a warrant to show you guys?
Oh, I did get one later.
Okay.
Later.
That's the
So,
tricky part.
Yeah. And then he said, hey, there's some sparkly on his little radio. There's some sparkly lady here filming us. And they already had OG Steve in the greenhouse handcuffed. And he said, that's Heidi. She's here for me.
Right.
And so the head officer, Brandon Oliveira, came out.
Oh, you know by name.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And he came out and he goes, calm, because I'm screaming at him. He's like, calm down, Heidi. I got all this on film, too. He goes, we're not here for you. He said, do you know so-and-so? And I said, no. He goes, well, there's an acre behind your greenhouse. I go, what? He goes, there's an acre behind your greenhouse. I was like, oh, this is not good. Because at the time I had like 300 and something farms. And if I attach myself to
Something else.
something that's not what
right.
I do,
Right.
it's big trouble for everybody. So I was like, I have no clue whose farm that is. So the landowner went behind my back with one of my old staff members, and she's telling them that she still worked for me. And so, I'm sorry about your farm. Because as soon as I said it's not mine, they came in like 30 deep. They came in and wiped out 1,300 plants in like an hour. They cut all the water lines. They smashed our security.
So not to cut you off, sorry. But when they raid the farms and different places, they dismantle everything.
Oh, yeah. They smash everything up. Yeah, they do some terrible things. So, yeah, very terrible things. Like they cut all of our greenhouse, because it's plastic. So they went and cut it all up. But they didn't take my weed.
That's ironic. I mean, that's kind of like crazy because it's like you dismantle the whole farm, but don't take the most important part. Like, I don't get it. Like as a lawyer, did you ever have to like encounter or like, obviously you say that you filmed it, but did you have to account for the different misconducts that they do? Like, yeah, they raided and it was unlawful, but the misconduct within the raid that's already not lawful.
So the best way to do that is take them into federal court and put everything on the record.
Okay.
It's there.
So why is that not talked about enough? Like you see a lot of cases where the federal government is going against, like
Because they target you, they'll harass you, they'll sit out in your parking lot and tell you that they own it now.
Right.
Like it's what they did out here. Like, you don't own my parking lot.
Right.
I paid for that.
Right.
You want to come over here and bully me and give me tickets? So I am in the middle of a federal lawsuit with Conrad Mallett Jr., who is the city attorney of Detroit. Mm-hmm. I got a member that came in one day, Dr. Bob from the Psychedelic Healing Shack.
Okay.
And he told me I got raided, and I was like, and I knew Shaman Shu had been raided, the Soul Tribes Church. Mm-hmm. And then I knew 2 other churches in Hazel Park got raided.
Right.
So they're just doing what they do, right? They love to raid you. That way they think, oh, no one else will open up. Well, I found out, so we sent a letter to the city, and I gave them an education on how you handle churches, and you need a special master, and you're not allowed to raid. You need a compelling interest.
Right.
Right? And come on in, check it out. And they've been in here. They've sent code in here to bully me. Yeah. And they sent code, and one guy came in and he was taking pictures. Like, you're not allowed to take pictures unless you're a member.
Yeah.
I mean, that's sacrilegious to us.
Yeah, that's even in the other side of the actual religious part of like churches. Like you just can't. You can come in. It's free. It's welcome. But you got to be under a certain.
Yeah.
How you carry yourself and how you are a member. Yeah.
And so when it comes to churches too, the government has to show a compelling interest, right, of public harm and safety, right? Mm-hmm. So there is none. And we just had a beautiful new ruling come down out of Utah. Utah has one of the best psilocybin bills out there right now.
Right.
Judge Jill Parrish, on March 19th, she ruled in Jensen versus Utah, where there was a doctor and he was, I don't know, he was in the medical field and he's like, this isn't healing, this isn't working. And so he started a psilocybin church and started healing people that way.
Right.
And anyway, so he got raided, of course, and then he sued them in the federal court, and Judge Jill said, there's no compelling interest, and you can't even have a presumption of one, right? And so you cannot raid churches, and you must give the mushrooms back. And so under RAFA, too, the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, you get attorney's fees. So you get awarded your attorney's fees, and there are remedies. So
that makes it even better.
Yeah.
So like when you are battling all these numerous cases, helping other people with yourself, what's that satisfaction or that justification that you feel once you know that you have helped people?
It's like the best feeling in the world. Like I'll say, for example, Pastor Tony, right? My Las Vegas case, he was facing 70 years for doing what we'd already been said not guilty of, right?
Right.
So he had his first case. He got on the airplane and came over from Stockton to Las Vegas.
Okay.
And he got arrested. So I went in and I did what I did on all 29 cases, where I write a confession. I'm the leader of the church. I told him to do it. I'm the one you want. And so the judge wouldn't even call her a name. He just pointed and told the DA, take this in the hallway. And I was like, I've never seen that before. And the DA's like confused, like, take a case in the hallway, right?
Right.
And so he did, and he looked at it and he said, so you're confessing and you're asking for criminal charges. And I said, yeah, and can I have federal ones? And he goes, you've got some balls. And I'm like, yeah, because we had all these new rulings, the Breyer ruling, at the time we had the Cole memo too.
Right.
So I was like, oh, give me a federal case. My husband's out of prison, and I'm ready to tackle this now that we're allowed to talk about what we're actually doing.
Right.
And they just refused to give me one. So I got caught trafficking 7 times, California to Texas, California, Nevada, Florida to Michigan. So these are members sending sacraments in the mail or crossing state lines. New Mexico, Texas. So we've won all over the nation. Yeah. We have 29 members, and I've never charged one of them $1.
Why is that?
I've done it all pro bono because I don't ever want anyone to say she's doing that for the money.
Right.
I mean, because I could have had a lot of attorney's fees.
For sure.
And I'm not a bar licensed attorney. I just do the lawyering work for the church.
Right.
And for the members.
Got you.
So, and I've seen cases too where I've had people call me and say, oh, I'm charged with psilocybin, Oregon case, for example, and he already has an attorney. And I'm just like, oh, no, here we go.
Here we go, yeah.
And they're like, I'm not putting my name on that. Because I have my expert witness, my curriculum vitae, and I submit it to the court, and then the case goes away like that. But these attorneys don't. They're, we'll do this and we'll do that. And every time they lose the case. Because if you don't let me fight for you the way 29 cases have worked, why would you do anything else? I don't, I know you're an attorney, but how many of these have you won? 0.
So just for the record, like, how long have you been in the industry?
In the industry, I was kind of soccer mom and just kind of laid low while my kids were little. And then I got into the industry back in 2007.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and then I was going to be a lawyer. And my ex-husband was a reserve sheriff.
Okay.
So he did not like what I was doing. But I won the case, so.
But, like, how was it, like, dealing with that? Like, you have a partner who doesn't have the same ideology as you, and you're so passionate about it, but he may be the polar opposite. Like, how was it like dealing with that in that regard?
It was an interesting combo. We only were married for 5 years.
Okay.
And we had 2 kids together. But he just had that cop mentality, the blue line culture.
Yeah.
Right? And you cannot think outside of that box.
Right.
And it's very disheartening, because a lot of these cases, the cops are in there making fun of you. Like, your fake religion, just some really hateful things. It's hate crimes,
Right.
right? Because we are
That's
a
exactly what it
religion.
is.
If you were doing that against, that's not cool,
Right.
So,
Yeah. So, you were based in California, but what other places did you kind of make your hub? We'll talk about Detroit on the back part, but like, what other places were your hub before you ultimately made it here in Detroit initially?
California was my hub. Yeah.
Outside of California.
Yeah. Well, we didn't. I just protected the members and the branches that were out there.
Okay.
I didn't really leave California. I had so much going on there.
What are some good stories?
Some good stories is we're on our 29th Religious Freedom Restoration Act case for our members. I was case 23. So right before the passage of Prop 64, I was, lobbying and saying, I'm a church. I will not comply with this 64 scheme and grand theft auto. I'm like the new Detroit Metro Times. It's a grand theft weed. So I wouldn't comply. And I said, I'm not going to be doing anything with the state. I
Right.
will not do anyone's compliant work because you're ripping them off and they're all going to fail.
Right.
And so look at what's happening now.
Even worse.
So they finally, after I won the 21 cases for the members, they came and finally got me, and they're like, we can't have her doing this.
Right.
She's got all the farmers.
Yeah.
Right? So they had to take me down, charge me with 28 felony counts. You're going to love what I got charged with. A felony conspiracy to commit a misdemeanor. I got that written for me.
How does that make sense? How do you conspire to commit a felony that's a misdemeanor?
Because 64 made cannabis a misdemeanor.
Oh,
We
okay.
no longer had felony charges. So they had to use those felony charges to
To
threaten
get the misdemeanor.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was facing, 30 years in jail. And I didn't plea out. I wouldn't do it. And they took 30,000 pounds from me. Yeah, that's a lot of weed.
Hell yeah.
That was only 12 properties.
Damn.
Yeah. We were blowing it up.
Hell yeah. Literally.
Yeah.
Literally. Like I want to kind of get like more of some positive stories, like the medicinal purposes of cannabis. Like
Right.
I'm with a farm that big, being in California, you guys helped a lot of different people. So like, can you talk about the medicinal purposes of cannabis, and then
Right.
the fact that it's a church, the spiritual realm of how cannabis help people?
Right. Well, we believe that, of course, it's God's gift to us, we the people. And every time you use cannabis, it heals you spiritually.
Right.
Whether you like it or not, that's what it's going to do.
Right.
Right? Your endocannabinoid system is going to be in healthy balance. And I just love smoking weed religiously. And then
Literally, me too.
using the mushrooms has been like, so after I won my case, right, I could have gone and opened right away and just been like, ha, like
I did it.
weed man.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I took 3 years off to go heal. I went up into the mountains in Yuba County, and I just did some healing. I got to go sit at the river every day and forage through the woods, and then I blew up a huge commercial church grow of mushrooms, and I
Okay.
had my cannabis, and they would fly me every day. Yeah, they did. They liked to fly me, and I would just can't do nothing. So I learned everything I could learn about the mushrooms,
Yeah.
and then I entered a contest, one like the pot contest, but for mushrooms, and I won out of 500 entries. So I was
Oh,
like,
congratulations.
I'm good. I'm done now.
Great quality.
Because that is a lot of work.
A lot of work.
A lot of work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So back to the original question about what did you see helping people as far as the medicinal purposes of cannabis, and then the spiritual part of cannabis.
Right. So getting that oil, because it truly does cure everything almost,
Yeah.
There's certain aggressive cancers that we can't stop, but it stops cancer in its tracks.
Right.
And I've seen the miracles happen with people, especially in the mushroom space. The depression, there's the door. See you later.
See you later. Yeah.
Yeah, my daughter's been on her routine in mushrooms now for the last year, and she's like just doing really well with it. You know, she's had some depression issues her entire life.
Likewise.
And it's just beautiful to watch people come out. I love to be here and hear people's stories of healing.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. And then it's healing all kinds of things, the mushrooms are. Especially with the veterans right now, they're seeing so much success.
Yeah.
Right? And here at Mothership, we put our veterans first.
For sure.
So, yeah, we have some really great veterans that are members.
I feel like that's the type of events that we should be doing in the city, especially for the veterans. Like cannabis events, like obviously they have PTSD. They've served our country. A lot of them struggle with mental health and physical health.
Yeah.
I feel like that's an event that more cannabis events should be centered around veterans.
Yeah.
Than versus like all the free use all the time. Like, do you agree with that? Like, far as like,
oh yeah,
with the veterans.
I love the veterans. Yeah. I mean, they really are a wonderful class of people. They just put their lives out there.
Yeah.
And my late husband Eddie was a 3-time combat Vietnam veteran.
Wow.
So he had just the stories. I can't even repeat them.
No.
Some of the things, you know, and he was really, really struggling with the PTSD. And then you throw him in prison for healing people.
That's enhancing it times 10. Now you're dealing with other people with the same similar issue. Because people in prison aren't mentally well. You know, we don't talk about that enough. Like prisoners who have done crimes or did things that go to that before prison, they had problems, but being in prison, they don't cater to the mental health or the rehab that it takes mentally to help someone that's in prison.
Yeah, we're harming them. We're not doing them any good. Yeah. You know, I think it's the Netherlands. Their prisons, their recidivism rate is like almost nothing because they treat them with respect. They treat them like humans. Like, hey, there's a way to life to live without having to do that.
Right.
So I like those prisons, you know.
Yeah.
Eddie had a really good prison at first. It's terrible to say. He was at the camp in Lompoc. And then he got caught with UCC filings. UCC filings are contraband in our federal prisons. So he got thrown in the hole for 90 days.
What is that considered?
So the UCC filings are the straw man concept, right? Where you're separating yourself from your birth certificate. So you're no longer United States chattel.
Right.
Right? You're a sovereign individual. So they don't like that. They don't want that in the prison.
Why is that? If you don't like to elaborate
They
more
called it a threat to national security. I don't know what that justified anything.
Yeah, because it doesn't make sense. Like if I want to be my own citizen,
right?
Why would that? I'm already incarcerated.
Right, because it gives you extra rights. It gives you freedoms, but they're not going to honor that.
Right.
Right. Like I've seen people try to do that in court before, and the judges just shut the courtrooms down, and they never ever, like, you rarely win. There are some people out there winning, and I say keep going, but there were people also getting arrested for trying to reclaim their bonds.
Oh.
Yeah.
How was that legal?
How is it legal to get a warrant and go knock a door down at a church because they got plants?
Yeah, same thing.
That's how it works.
Right.
Yeah, so my attorney wrote a really good book that if you really, really want to understand like the corruption of the system, my attorney's name is Joseph Tully.
Okay.
And he's, in my opinion, the top trial attorney in our nation.
Okay.
He is in the top 10.
Right.
And he wrote a book called California, The State of Collusion. It's a blueprint for every state that I'm in. It's no different.
Right.
And so it's just the system is so corrupt. But what we've got to do is figure out, and we're going to be holding some classes here, how do we get that system to collapse, right? We want it to collapse. So if everybody went into the federal court, whoever has been raided before, and said, nope, I'm a church, because there's provisions in RAFA that if you weren't a church yesterday, it doesn't matter. It's retroactive.
Right.
So everybody that was arrested, all the medical people, the caregivers, even some of the metric people got raided and robbed by the police here.
Wow.
Yeah. So they'll be able to go back and say, no, I want restitution for this.
Yeah.
Right? And any of those cities and counties or states that are saying, hey, we're expunging records. You know what you just did is you just admitted to a whole class of victims. And there's victims' rights, and you must pay restitution.
Right.
So, great job for expunging people's records. Now what? Where's my victims' rights?
Where's the pay? Where's the money I lost on, families are
Where's
affected.
my attorney's fees back? Where's my plants?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's fighting back.
Yeah, for sure. What was the inspiration behind the Mothership Sanctuary?
The Mothership? So I'm an alien, right?
Okay.
And I'm an interplanetary being, and I fly around on a spaceship looking over planets, right? And so that's what I do here. And so I was like, the Mothership. What a perfect name for this place.
Right.
So, yeah, and this is going to be really like the blueprint of what we're trying to replicate for the community. Like, we're trying to replicate the true intention of churches, right? Which was to get closer to your creator.
Right.
And so that's what we're trying to do, just get people closer to their creator and feel like comfortable in their community, that, there's a lot of like-minded people.
Right.
A lot of great people out here in Detroit. Yeah.
Why Detroit?
It's kind of a long story. So
We got time.
So I ended up in a meeting with someone from the Alphabet Gang.
Okay.
They recovered some of my sacraments in Texas again.
Okay.
So we ended up having coffee.
Okay.
At first I called Joseph. I'm like, I got a message on my phone. And I go, what do I do? He goes, just be you. Tell the truth.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. So I ended up finding out that my neighbors were trying to rob me and hurt me. So they intercepted 2 robbery attempts when I was up in the mountains.
Right.
And I had just moved out right when he had called me, and he's like, you moved right in the nick of time.
That intuition, that spiritual realm.
Yeah. And so anyway, it was a really great meeting, honestly. They don't give a crap about psilocybin. They are really just so focused on the fentanyl problem right now, and I finally, because he was one of the guys that was busting all the people in the Bay when we first started with 215.
Right.
Right. And it was the crew that busted my late husband. And
Okay.
I said, why are you doing this? Right? You're my mortal enemy.
Yeah.
And I make fun of you. I clown you.
Yeah.
I write you yeah. And so he said, because I finally believe you. Yeah. He said, I've never seen someone fight so hard and so long. And he goes, I believe you. I believe in what you're doing. I really, truly do. So I was like, wow, that's bridging a gap,
Yeah, for sure.
And so I know I don't have to worry about the feds. What I do need to worry about is the rogue officers like the city of Detroit.
Right.
Where no, you cannot be doing that. We have federal protections in place that protect our churches. So, and the feds aren't interested in it. They're catching on. They're understanding it now, which is a good thing.
Right.
So I think some of them are on their own journeys.
Yeah.
But they're also in the position where they didn't even know that you could extract psilocybin. So I was like, and he goes, and that's where you come in. It's your time to shine again. Because my standards in California were above and beyond what California could ever even think of doing, right?
Right.
We totally bless our sacraments. They're grown with love. They're not grown with greed. Right, regulations and taxing and complete abuse of
power.
A holy plant, a sacred plant, and she's not going to do what you want her to do.
Right.
Right, and so when we take these plants and we revere them, right, and I believe cannabis was our lesson before we really got the mushrooms where we have them now. But cannabis was definitely our lesson. How are you going to revere this plant? How are you going to take care of this gift from your creator?
Right.
And I did a really good job.
You did.
So, and I'm,
Thank you for your work.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And so now here we are with the mushrooms, which are 100 times harder, number one, to grow,
Right.
but they're that much more powerful. You know, they really do change people's lives. So I've been doing some hero dosing. I'm up to 30.
Okay.
Yeah, and we have one up, Matt, a member here. He does Whimsical Wednesdays.
Okay.
And he did 100 grams on Instagram. You got to go watch it.
I got to. I'm
100
definitely gonna watch that.
grams?
Send me the link. But back to the original question. I appreciate the story, but why Detroit?
Oh, so when I was speaking, so I had just came out here to visit a friend of mine
Okay.
who wanted to get involved with this. He was very involved with me in California. And Detroit just did the decrim, so I was like, oh, perfect place, right?
Yeah.
And so the day I was here, I went to the Soul Tribes Church, and they got raided the next day. So I was like, okay, they're going to need some help out here,
Right.
Rob, obviously.
Yeah.
And so clearly here I am in the middle of with Conrad. But Detroit just called me, and I know there's a lot of people here right now that are in need of a lot of help with
For
the
sure.
way the police are treating them, the way the city officials are treating them. I know there was a church in Rogue River Rogue?
River Rouge.
River Rouge, okay. And what the city did to them, they're trying to steal their property right now. And they're even putting church on the paperwork, and they said if you sell the property, you can't sell it to a church. That's a violation of the Religious Land Use and Incarcerated Persons Act.
Exactly.
You're not allowed to do that.
No, not at all.
So there's just a lot of corruption. Hopefully we'll be able to clean a lot of that up.
How do you feel about the recent news that the odor of cannabis can no longer be used as a way to pull people over or search and seize? Like, how do you feel about
Oh, that's beautiful.
Michigan being progressive?
That's beautiful, because I used to carry a little bottle of perfume, and it said
Yeah.
Kush. It was like weed perfume, and I always had it in my car. No, officer, it's my perfume. But no, it's a beautiful thing. They don't have any right to do that.
Right.
You know, and especially because most of us began as medical patients.
Right.
Right? That's none of your business.
Right.
So,
Yeah, for sure.
yeah. And, yeah.
So what progressive changes do you want to see within Michigan now that you are operating here and have been an advocate for cannabis for so long?
Right. So I want to see the big Gretch and so far do no good Dana Nessel
Right.
stop raiding these farmers, stop raiding these medical people, right? There was a raid the other day in, I forget, I'm still new here. There was a raid on a lab, a closed loop lab.
Okay.
Right? He spent 5 years trying to get his license. No, deny, deny, deny. Thousands after thousands after thousands, deny. Raid. Right? So it's just, and they had kids. So one of the children opened the door with 30 assault rifles pointing at a 14-year-old, pointing. He collapsed in fear.
That's sad.
Collapsed in fear. There was a young lady, 18 years old, their niece, right? There's 30 officers there. There's one female. They didn't even let her get dressed. And they had her parading around in front of all these men. And then the other house, there was a baby. The man it was freezing cold that day. And he came out holding the baby and they had 30 assault rifles pointed at a baby over a plant. This is what happens in Yuba County.
Right.
You can't, one wrong move and people die. While these people are trying to heal everybody.
Right.
It just makes no sense, and it needs to be corrected. You know, and the church is really a great avenue to do that.
Right.
Because at some point, you know, we're a threat to the very existence of the CRA.
What are the
Yeah.
differences and similarities from the California weed industry versus Michigan weed industry?
A lot of the Michigan strains here came from California.
Okay.
So a lot of the strains you see all over the U.S. today came from my husband's rear end, smuggled from Amsterdam.
Really?
Yeah, so a lot of the Z strains Brandon and Shiloh, while Eddie was in prison, third gen, and what is Shiloh's again? I forget. But anyway, they went and got some seeds from Eddie's bank that was being held by Alan, and they grew. And then Brandon won the High Times Cup with the OG Eddie Lep.
Okay.
And then that OG Eddie Lep just blew up
Skyrocketed,
and
yeah.
made some beautiful strains like the runts and the all the Z's.
Yeah.
So
Literally.
yeah, so a lot of the stuff, it's like, oh, when they say, I got a Skittles pre-roll thing and it said, taste their rainbow. And I was thinking, I know where these seeds came from.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny.
So what are some of the like the differences?
Differences, I would say the difference here compared to California, I think there's a lot more humble people here.
Okay.
I notice a lot of the your Michigan weedsters and your advocates.
Yeah.
They all get along. California wasn't like that. Everybody was always at each other's throats.
Yeah.
Or I'm the master grower. No, I'm the master grower.
No, I get that.
Right? So yeah, just I think ego. And I think mushrooms were a lot more popular here before they were in California.
Really?
Well, you had the Kalindi. What was his name? There's a big mushroom society out here.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and they just opened another church. From the Bay Area, Zydor, they opened the Per Ankh Church. So it's over here. They have some really good stuff going on there.
See, yeah, you're educating me on a lot of different things that I might have not known, because even in the mushroom and weed community, it seems like everybody's together, but it's so spread out as well. Like people from West Michigan might not come to down here to Detroit. A lot of Detroit people won't travel to the different places to see what they have to offer or educate themselves.
Yeah.
So it's like that kind of weird kind of thing that's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as far as the mushrooms, how proactive have you been in that, as far like versus what we have talked about as far as cannabis? Like you've been, a pillar, like a lawyer, an advocate, using the plant. Like as far as when it comes to mushrooms, like how actively involved or just as equal as that?
I absolutely loved my time growing them. Like
Okay.
that was an amazing experience. I stay really active, like just keeping my members from being discriminated against.
Yeah.
And we do a lot of letter writing. Like when the cities are out of control, we say, hey, no, right? And I think we've sent 3 or 4 different letters to Gretchen and Dana this last month saying, here's another case, you guys. I'm doing your jobs for you.
Right.
I'm investigating these cases when they come to me. And I will call every single person out by name. Yeah. And
As far as like government or police and stuff like that?
Yep. All of our public servants, I call them rogue bureaucrats.
Yeah. I want to kind of put you on the spot a little bit. We've talked about like the legal part of it, but have you outed or been proactive against people who are growers in cannabis that aren't doing the right things? And I was saying, are you proactive in not investigating, but uncovering people who are growers who don't do the right things within cannabis and mushrooms?
Oh yeah, they usually out themselves.
Right.
They definitely do. Those people don't usually get very far.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I've seen a lot of bad people out there.
Yeah.
Tainting medicines and just abusing it.
What type of things do they do that would be that you have noticed that is a common thing?
Testing labs are crap. They lie. I've seen that since day one. Since 215 passed and the labs started coming around, it's just been, some dishonesty.
Yeah.
And then, of course, they inflate the results or they'll deflate your results.
Yeah.
So, we just need more quality control on those labs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how can people like yourself and people like platforms like me kind of like circle that in, like so that way that testing labs are doing the appropriate things to cater towards the people?
Yeah. So per because we were just talking about, they have a whole course and class on testing. Mm-hmm. And I would say the Oakland Hyphae group, they're really like at the highest level when it comes to standards.
Right.
So I do look for those people, those key people, like those are the standards we want. Those
Right.
are the ones we're going to adopt.
Gotcha.
So yeah, testing in mushrooms, it was like the old, hey, I threw an eighth in the brownies. How much THC is in brownie? how much psilocybin is in your chocolate bar or your gummies. It's 4 grams of mushrooms, but how many grams of exactly psilocybin? So we're there.
So for somebody that has never tried mushrooms, what is a good way to start using mushrooms, and can you talk about the effects that it has had on you in your personal experience?
Yeah, so I like to microdose.
Okay.
I do it now and again. I stop and kind of reset sometimes. I like doing the high dose work. I love that.
Okay.
Those are just like I met my soul. Like I met myself. It was the craziest feeling. I did, and there were some really, interesting things. Like you get a lot of downloads. You get a lot of predictions. Like I saw the Hawaii fires right before they happened. So those are just things that you can't really explain, but you can see them. And when we do the high dose work, I was doing it with God Sitters with Johns Hopkins University. And while you're doing it, you're encouraged to talk about everything you see, everything you feel, everything you like, everything you're experiencing. So, and then you get to go back like a month later and listen to it again and be like,
yeah.
Because you remember it all, but you don't. Like, you have to really go put the work and do it and go, what was you thinking? I've got to revisit that. And what was it telling me?
Right.
So those are my favorite trips. But I would start, if you're new to mushrooms, I would say microdose.
Okay.
Because then you're not going to be afraid of it. Because a lot of people, they're afraid of them.
Right.
Right? Oh, no, want to trip? Well, then just start slow. Right? Take a little tiny mushroom, sprinkle it on your coffee in the morning, and there you go.
Right.
And then you'll learn what you can handle, and then you're going to want to keep doing more, right? And so just go slow with it. Just really slow.
What are your favorite or go-to mushrooms that you like to partake in?
I like doing the teas when we're doing the high dose work. The teas are good. I love the tea that we have here. We have a really good tea, but you got to be committed because it's strong.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
Right? Or you better be sharing it with like 3 different people. Because then if I make it, like my chocolate bars, if I open it, that's it. It's over. It's gone. I can't control myself. I eat it all.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I do love the chocolate bars, too. We got a really great line of heroes that are mint's my favorite.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
What's your favorite weed strain?
My favorite weed strain of all time is OG Steve's Purple Tangy.
Okay.
Yeah, it won every cup it's ever entered.
Is it like a cross strain? Can you give me a little bit more information about the strain?
It came from DNA Genetics.
Okay.
And
shout out to
he
them.
just picked a pheno that was out of this world. Yeah. He still has it, still going with it.
Yeah.
So it'd be nice to see him get up on a big farm. Get those purple tangies back out there.
For sure. Why is it your favorite strain? Like, what does that strain do for you? Like, what does it taste like?
I can't stop smelling it. I'm obsessed. If I have it, I want to get like one of those little, like a mustache holder where I can just hold my weed right there. And it's so good. Like I'll eat it and just like nibble it. Like it's so good.
Yeah.
And the purple tangy is just so potent. It's unforgettable weed strain.
Yeah.
And then my other favorite strains, they come from the Grow 420 Grow on Instagram. That was my first raid. Okay. So we still have the seed bank. It's still there. And we have all our genetics saved over that way. And then I also love my other favorite grower. I believe these are the 2 top growers in the world.
Okay.
Is Gage Green Group, Michael Fang, and then Grow 420 Grow. I don't say his name out loud because
for sure
he hides.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I just was able to bump into him, within the sanctuary. So I'm definitely gonna give his products a try for sure.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
They're the bomb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna lie, this space is great. Like it kind of embodies Detroit, like the loft style downtown, upstairs, downstairs, basement kind of vibe. I love this space, and I appreciate you guys for having me.
Thank you.
So as far as you, how long have you guys been here?
We had our opening on January 1st.
Okay.
So
congratulations.
thank you.
No problem.
Brand new. and we didn't get raided.
So like as far as like being in this space, like just as far as the culture, like what do you want to what is your vision for this space, and what do you want to see in like what do you want to see, what do you envision
One of
this
my
space being?
one of my main visions that I daydream about a lot is, if you've noticed, if you're in real estate at all, if you go and you're looking for buildings, there are so many empty churches.
Yes, it is.
They're all over. I would love to see us replicate this in every church we can find and bring back the community love and care and the neighbors, and let's go build some gardens for the neighborhoods.
Right.
You know, things like that. Just reviving these churches, because we don't discriminate. You know, we don't have Bibles. We don't do any of that. We smoke weed and we talk. We get to know each other. We find ways to help each other, help the community. So I would love to see that, have these next to every liquor store.
Yeah, for sure.
It'd be great.
Yeah, because Detroit is made up of mostly liquor stores and churches.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely.
So we had a church. I have a church member, and they have an actual church building in the Township Republic, and
Okay.
they were getting all upset because they were advertising and using the church, but the church is across the street from a school. And it's like, so they don't do it when the kids are there. Who cares?
Right.
There's plenty for the kids, you know? So.
Yeah. So, like as far as like getting it, now that you're here and like basically the hub of Detroit, what type of ways do you want to integrate into the community and kind of make this place, a already community-driven place, more engulfed and integrated in the community?
Right. I think what I'm noticing right now is the corruption at the top levels of our government, right?
Right.
And I think it's up to us, we the people, to learn how to hold them accountable with our FOIAs, with community meetings, and saying, hey, I want your emails this week. Hey, I want your text messages tomorrow. You know, just holding these people accountable. I had one of the Republic Township supervisors tell my church member, he was just this message. I was like, that's not how you talk to us.
Right.
Right? You're the public servant and you need to be respectful.
Right.
So holding these people accountable, because it's like the blue line culture, right? It's they just do what they want, take what they want, and don't care.
Right.
And, you know, they get these big egos and they think that, you know, since they've been getting away with it for so long,
That is acceptable.
but now AI is going to catch up with you. And I'll warn all of you judges out there now with AI, you better keep your bias out of the courtroom, because AI is going to ping you and say, Doge, this judge, that's a no-no.
Yeah.
No, because using AI, I use it a lot with the legal stuff that I do.
Okay.
And you can take a case and throw it through AI, and it will pick out any bias in there and say, no, this is inaccurate, right? So you got these attorneys fighting, and they never really get anywhere. So, yeah, the new AI systems they're coding it all right now for the judicial system,
Gotcha.
which is great. And it works for the DAs. It works for the public defenders, because now I can't tell you how many times I've had public defenders not do their job.
Yeah.
Like, I took my Las Vegas case. We get public defenders sometimes in these cases.
Right.
I have fun with them.
Yeah.
And so she was refusing to file our paperwork. She was refusing to file my expert witness CV. And I said, all right, I've had enough of this, right? I tried, I gave you the opportunity to win this case. So I just decided to go to the Nevada Attorney General and say, hey, and then I went to her boss and I said, how come your public defenders aren't doing their job? And I'll give her a list of stuff she didn't do right,
Right.
or she's supposed to do and didn't do.
Right.
So then the case was dismissed 2 weeks later after I called the Attorney General.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
No
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah, so I had a case go across Pam Bondi's desk when my Florida package went through. So she knows who I am. Yeah, and I've been told that I was a topic of conversation on William Barr's desk. And so was the Zydor Church in Oakland. So, but there's nothing they can do.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, this was a conversation at the highest level of our attorney generals, and we have double jeopardy,
Yeah, for sure.
equal protection. If
Definitely.
one church does it, then we all can do it.
For sure.
But it's a fight. You know, you can't control those rogue officers, right?
Not at all.
Like there's certain towns I won't go in, right? Like I'm not gonna go open up in Alabama.
Never. Yeah. Just one last question. Seeing the space and everything we talked about, how important is diversity and inclusion in a space like this?
Absolutely. Yeah, we don't discriminate against anybody, any race, faith, cult, nothing.
Right.
Right? We don't dictate anything. I believe the creator is your creator and
Right.
you have your own divine, unique relationship with him. And no man will tell me what to wear.
Right.
Nobody tells me what to wear, and I shouldn't be telling anyone else what to wear either.
Right.
Right? So it's all about our individualism and just really focusing in on that than a set of rules. We have 3 rules. Respect all, harm none, love one another. Eddie Lepp, that was his saying.
That's
So,
powerful.
Yeah.
Well, you were a great guest.
Thank you.
You're a woman of many great things. You're a cultivator, innovator, businesswoman, a whole bunch of different things. And I appreciate you coming on the podcast. I appreciate your work for what you do.
Thank you.
To be able to come all the way from California to come here to create a great space like this and invite me here. I appreciate you for being a great guest.
Thank you.
All right, this was SmokeSumPodcast. It's the visionary mind. I see it, I think it, I make it happen. Till next time, we out.
Pig in the pocket.